So beginning on page 1 of this book, the prayer book.
Dewa dan den dunga dan de nyodo lana me bayan da bara zobe shanjo rumbo je do baraja.
All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Okay. So we'll do it twice, the three repetitions twice in English. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. On page 3. Namge dada nyambe semchen tamje joju de somje deje je batan je go zon do yoden tenle tamje ngovoy jurbay chuje pombo dandra je zashin june babe gende dan je ngada Trinchen zawa dan jebe barden lama damba namla jasun je yedan jimbur je lazo namla jasun je sanje chungden de namla jasun je dambe chu namla Kyazun je barbe gende namla kyazun je pawon kandra chujung sumle so yishi ji jendan denpa namla kyazun je. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teaching, and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom.
Xiang Jiu Ning Bo Ji Ji Pa Sang Ji Nam La Jia Sun Ji Zhe Zhan Xiang Jiu Sun Ba Yi Co Lan Di Jin Jia Sun Ji Ji Da Men Ji De Ji Ji Xiang Jiu To Ne Ji Ba Dan Xiang Jiu Sun Bie La Ba La Te Da Ren Ji Ne Ba Da Te Jin Ro La Ben Dan Da Xiang Jiu Sun Ne Ji Ji Jin Te Jin To Ne La Ba La Rinpa Jinda La Ba
Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Page 5.
Sanji Judan Zoji Jonan Lai Yang Ju Barda Tane Jabzun Chi Nagi Jizo Jibi Sanam Ji Drola Penje Sanji Drupai Sho
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Nam da dan nyam be sam jen dam dewa dan de we jo dan dem ba jo je dam a jo dan tra jo je dam a me be dewa dan men da jo je Niren Jadan Yindan Drawe Tanyam Lani Bajoje.
May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Banzara Zamanza, Banzara Zamanza, Banzara Zamanza. Malu Simjin, Gunjin, Gunjurjin, and Dude Bonje, Mizin, Jumzela, Nama, Shijin, Jinjurbe, Jumden, Gorj, Nendere,
Refuge of all sentient beings without exception, divine subjugator of terrifying Maras, together with their hosts of demons, the one who understands all realities without exception, exactly as they are, transcending conqueror, together with your disciples, please come here to this place.
Badam Puben Alogan Nende Shabda Bardita Saji Buja Jojing Medotan Ralanjin Sanji Shila Mede Puraye Drogu Namda Jindu Jubai Joy Janzawa Chujin Shabadan Jizu Yiran Goshin Zawaye Gawa Junzi Dagi Jizaba Tanji Zobe Shanje Jimbo.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. And then, page 9.
Kamson yondro de lorwande, ngorwa tondro se shinjelo, jeyi norwa zoge jan, masan jume jarwe to, kimbe yije ngadan dem, anzewe danin gari jan. Roa Jumze Ramboje Dasini Jingane Zorwande Chuni Jingando Shinjilo Semdune Jeme Namdande Londe Chuko Dobara Shinjilo Dende Tijin Ship Jumba Yang Takbara Zobe Zanji Riba Tan Shabse Demba Devara Ship Jiten Chemba Jivun Durwa Kalo Jurwa Alana Meb Lada me namje tomba nyame shaji jarbo shabji do chuma me balango rabdo dode grip chanzalo kanze kanyi zo chudanze sajendela Kumpa dunwarne nga the nine Georges the Zen Kebashula Janzalo Namda Gongan Jodo Sozawa Yi Janzo Zergi Lumbondra Trabanji Zona Long Ewa Gombo Choni July Janzalo It's enjoy them by dreaming the way Zerndorn Dao July Janzalo the Jai Chundra Ziba Zonan Yamin Jenjim July Janzalo Minjo Darwa Kalo Junze Gunjur Jinwa Junze Tijin Omboy Shadan Yi Shilange Niyu Shuba Delai Janzalo Ngombo Tuje Chedem Ba Tamjin Jemba Damba Bo Zunai Yuden Janzu Shi Tijin Shelai Janzalo Daben Durja Chari Jegen Son Le Durjin Jedu Todan Chojurwa Shijur Cholai Janzalo Chorne Jure Lamyan Dan Laba Tala Rabdek Shinge Tambayan Denshin and Gendu Layan Janzalo.
Page 11. Namo to the Lama of utterly pure appearance and existence. I offer the fundamental ground of appearance and existence. I supplicate you to thoroughly liberate the three realms. Please grant your blessings and overturn the depths of samsara. Sublime Master, wish-fulfilling jewel, crown ornament, the inconceivable, inexpressible mind of the victorious ones, the one endowed with the five wisdoms of omniscience, gracious one, the embodiment of love, precious protector of beings, I supplicate you from within the essence of mind. Please grant your blessings from within the innate nature. Please bless me that I may realize the Dharmakaya that is beyond intellect, this primordially unborn, completely pure mind. Transcendent conqueror, the one thus gone, foe destroyer of afflictive emotions, completely perfected Buddha, endowed with logic and virtue, the one gone to bliss, knower of the world, captain, tamer of beings, the unexcelled teacher of gods and men, I respectfully prostrate, completely touching my head to the stainless feet of the unequaled Shakya king. At the time of your birth, leader of two-legged beings, taking 7 steps on this great earth, you proclaimed, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, even then I prostrate. Possessing a body of complete purity, your sublime form is excellent. An ocean of primordial wisdom, you are like a golden mountain. The one whose renown is evident throughout the 3 worlds, protector of supreme attainment, to you I prostrate. To you who are endowed with the supreme marks, whose face is like an immaculate moon, to you with the complexion like gold, I prostrate. A flawless one such as you among the 3 levels of existence is most exquisite. Unparalleled omniscient one, to you I prostrate. Supreme among humans, captain of those to be tamed, the one thus gone, who severs the all-binding fetters, who with senses pacified is utterly pacified and skilled in peace. To that one, the one who dwelled at Shravasti, I prostrate. Refuge endowed with great compassion, totally omniscient one who indicates the way, ground basis for oceans of merit and qualities, I prostrate to the one thus gone. The pure cause free from attachments, the virtue that liberates from the lower realms, the altogether supreme ultimate truth, to the pacifying Dharma I prostrate. Having been liberated, they also reveal the path to liberation. Thoroughly respectful of the three higher trainings, they are a field of sublime qualities. To the Sangha I also prostrate. And then page 14.
Sombo jube molam dobda ge jarwa tamji yije ngazan Shinge dunye lura duba ye jarwa gunla rada janzalo Dorje dana durni sanje na sanje seje vana shubada Dare chuji na malu ba tamji jarwa dage kawaramo Tada ngaba mezi janzo na yanji yanlai janzo dragon Jarwa kunji yoden rabju jendewa shiva tamji dage Medo damba jingwa damba dan sinye nam dan durba dunjo Marmin jo don dupu damba ye jarwa tedalanen jobaji Naza damba nam dan jinjo dan jimi parmara nyamba dan Gube jibaran babin jogun je jarwa dadalayan jobaji Joba kana lami jaje wa dada jarwa tamje layan Sombo jula tebe dobda ge jarwa kunla chanzar jobaji Dujai Shadan Demo Wange Neludan Asan Ijejan Deba Dage Jeba Jinji Vadada Tamje Dage Sosoya Choju Jarwa Gundan Sanje Zeranja Namdan Lobdan Melobdan Drowa Gunje Sunam Kala Yantada Gunje Jeso Dayira Kanan Chojun Jiden Drama Nam Jangjo Rambara Zanje Majani O de da ge tamji la lo la na me bara go nyang da gan ji da lan ro gan la ben jin le je karwa jing ge de ni jo ba yan da ge tan mo ra ja zo ra je Chanzo wadan jujin shaba dan jizu yirang gojin zawai Gewa Jungse Dage Jezam Badamji Dage Shangjo Chengo.
Page 15. I prostrate to the youthful Manjushri, to those in the worlds of the 10 directions, however many there are, all the lions among humans who appear during the 3 times, to all of them without exception, I pay homage with respectful body, speech, and mind. The force of my aspiration prayer for excellent conduct brings all the victorious ones directly to mind. Bowing down with bodies as numerous as atoms in the realms, I prostrate to all the victorious ones. In a single atom there are Buddhas as numerous as atoms, each residing in the midst of their sons and daughters. Like that, I imagine the whole Dharmadhatu completely filled with victorious ones. To those with oceans of inexhaustible, praiseworthy qualities, with sounds containing oceans of tones of melodic speech, I express the qualities of all the victorious ones. I praise all the Sugatas with the finest flowers, the finest garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, supreme lamps, and the finest incense. I make offerings to the victorious ones with the finest claws, supreme scents, and fine powders equal to Mount Meru, all displayed in supreme and magnificent ways. I make offerings to those victorious ones. With vast and unsurpassable offerings, I venerate all the victorious ones. Through the power of faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to the victorious ones. Whatever negative actions I have performed with body, speech, and also mind, overpowered by desire, aggression, and stupidity, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in everyone's merit, the victorious ones of the 10 directions, the Bodhisattvas, the Pratyeka Buddhas, those in training, those beyond training, and all beings. I request the protectors, the lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who passing through the stages of awakening, attain Buddhahood beyond attachment, to turn the unsurpassable Dharma wheel. I supplicate with my palms joined together those who intend to demonstrate nirvana, to remain for kalpas as numerous as atoms in the realms, for the welfare and happiness of all beings. I dedicate whatever slight virtue is accumulated through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating to enlightenment. And then page 16.
Samchen Namji Samba Tang Loyi Chedra Chedawa Chechung Tumo Dewa Ye Chejen Kolo Gordo So.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the 2 vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Shabjibe mojimame balango rabda dada gosong guba jimbu goni jahan tarjin jabzun jewo jewane zerab jinchun watan jeta dodzawa jimbu gon jisu sungde ju jinje la baranza tozo kongge xiarzong dawe mengong kesan zunbin dong zhaxin chenpe sewo senru sarvin rokun mege des tukjin dama guni jurin jiden sonjin kong jabe tong pima garpo deren dalo yen zoro jong orjen solen peme tongbo zere jarve namro rongjong sunje Tsaizo pe yoden zombarwa pe manjung ne dalo benzo rajong shinji tenkun shi jin sik bin chen si jin koram kong shin ro kun zem humen pa zan je lo ro kun de kudong yi shi riba mi gong chu yin kalan ze ba kong jambar sho na kun ne ka he zo gen chu yin ro pe ma kar bon zun pe sha le zang ho zir dong ge cha wa yin ki men zir lo chung cho zur we yong jen nga ge bar mon da yi jong gong ra dong ka rin jin yung bong go ya den kun jung ga yi ji zir Ningbo dongze bebe nan jirwa zhime zira shabji Taye jan shi ya kun sen zho la ji si de zhime zira yang cho zo den zo sa long chen nang ki ning Jimi ling be sha la so wan de Chidra jar vi se po shi wa la Nong da cho pe wan cho sha wa re Song pan cho deng a rang zhong Jimmy Ji Wambra Gujanza, Rigdon Jambra Shun Shilale, Gombe Long Le Pove Derjido, Long To Chunze Jansong Adan. Mi Pam Jamyon Nam Jala Gujanza, Yoden Sanji Gundanyam Nayam, Gandhi Sanji Gunle Labing. Zawe la mantala zurwande da son roe lo na chula juro. So thank you everyone. Resume our Sunday gathering here and of course everyone. You too, and you haven't seen for a while. A while means 1 or 2 months, or but good to see here. And also, of course, this is a Drupon which is planned a Sunday schedule, and you know Drupon which is still in. Somewhere, I don't know exactly, maybe Lada or India.
Manali.
Where?
Manali.
Oh, Manali, okay.
In India.
If you don't know, Manali is a very good place, have a lot of fruits and other stuff.
Giant apples.
Apples are very...
Giant apples.
Yes,
like
it's
huge.
very famous.
Amazing.
If you haven't been there, then try to find out. And also online people, thank you so much for joining us. This is sort of special because of the Sunday teaching here regularly we have. Either you are come here for learning new stuff, or you are just joining, support us to participate this event. Either way is great. And last Sunday we decided that because I'm sort of wearing a different hat here to substituting Drupon Rinpoche, but I don't want to mess the actual schedule. So it's So I thought maybe we best to look at the text, which is a very famous text, but sometimes people don't know that much these texts. Usually when we grow up, we really Shedras or other learnings, we start with these texts and then 37 Bodhisattva practice that what we do. So these two are really talk about the whole Mahayana kind of practice, and of course then you can see 37 Bodhisattva practices much later in the Tibetan writing, but this is quite early writing, Nagarjuna's writing. So this is which means this text is translated from Sanskrit. And a little bit, some areas are a little bit difficult to understand. I hope you have a commentary to look at, either you are, whichever language you are using. I'm sure this text is so famous that there is different versions of translation in English, and I'm sure different languages as well. Since we have only since 2 Sundays here, I go more like oral transmission with a little bit explanation. If you have questions, maybe raise hand and we can discuss. But then other areas, it's not that difficult to understand. Tindu ta thongmar chu nyambar shebala tene kulong yakpu chu goyat ngaso chu ta trobya senandra nyaya senandra tikaps kulong yakpu chu yat kechembure teju yak chedo tene ngaso andom baten döngo yore tene ngaso poge luksula döngom trama sen domban donya de gom jabya ni nyam tu chene ten nyam sala ya thala dongom trama sen nan donya de gom ya drama sen nyam sara wotin de inde de porang da nyam len chechurjire kapka ngaso domba mombo donde metso de kandijina samsamro tende yu sara yana de komshinra chi tep soyena tene rimpe hinda de nyam lenta
So, at the beginning, at the outset of any Dharma activity, whether listening to Dharma teachings, whether practicing the Dharma, it's very important first to establish the purest motivation possible. So to adjust our intention, our motivation, at the outset of receiving or listening to Dharma teachings, at the outset of beginning any Dharma activity or practice. And so the way that we typically do this is with what we've already done, which is through the recitation. So as we recite, opening prayers, there is what is said in Tibet, the way of meditating on the meaning as you recite. So you're not just reciting kind of, in a rote way, but you're really reflecting on the meaning and meditating on the meaning as you recite. And in that recitation, then we cultivate a pure intention. So sometimes we might think, oh, why so many recitations? Why do we do so many recitations? But this is really the purpose, to establish the pure intention at the outset. And so especially if you become really familiar with these prayers, then it allows for a dropping into kind of a meditative contemplation or experience as we do the lengthy recitations.
Tene ta zo zo dön ya tang lon zim ya sa de tene ke chen bo yin sa re ten de nga son dam ba chin de na re ten ma yin be tan da drup tap so ma de tene yang chor dang ko ya yang chor jan du chi ko ya te la nyam len se yo ro te yin de yang
And so really also to memorize can be really beneficial, really important with the recitations that we do. And this is why also, for instance, when we're doing a particular practice, a particular sadhana, and we recite it again and again and again. There's a lot of repetition, and there is this benefit or this important aspect to the repetition. Both it creates, it allows for this retention or this memorization to take place, and also this familiarization where we can really meditate on the meaning.
Tene jertong atso nyamlen chi se nandra chula tanda jangya la tene nga son tuba samba gomba sene tu sam gom som sebi sherab namba som sengdwa tubi sherab sambi kura sherab gombi sherab that is som tongmar tubi ki sherab te ki chembore tene jangwi kapsu tene tuba sekara ti kapsu tene tsek de töntaso chuki tsek töntaso koya ki chembore tele tubi sherab tuba marik mus drorme yinson tuba seyate marik banga so mantong ba jön tele drome senatanda patra lambda tatende tagu cha de tuba de inji meni ke chembore sonda sonjik chu drobig luxula 당본 도바 세야데 개첨벌에서
So when we train in Dharma practice, when we practice the Dharma, there are really three main activities that comprise our Dharma training. And that is study or listening. It's actually literally listening to Dharma teachings. But we say study, contemplation, and meditation. And these develop the three types of wisdom. The wisdom that comes from hearing, the wisdom or study, the wisdom that comes from contemplating, and the wisdom that comes from meditation. So at the beginning of these three stages of training, it's really important to engage in extensive hearing or study first, to hear a lot of Dharma teachings, and to understand the words of the language and the words of the Dharma, as well as the meaning. So it's really important first to engage in this extensive phase of hearing, and it is said that it is hearing that is the lamp that clears away the darkness of ignorance. So it is like a butter lamp or a lamp that illuminates the darkness of ignorance. So it's very important to engage in extensive hearing, to hear a lot of Dharma teachings, to study a lot of Dharma.
tene da tutu jembi nge kendene ma poyen tol demachik lo tene Virginia rochene inji tol ma lo tene magoba andawo tangarong ronge ndrishijab kosare sambanduna ni ndrishijab tene magoba churonso magobanduna nga nganyil chor chwatane tende chinrona mato tutu jembege tene kale chena de this gondro sarva.
So what we'll do here, and as you may have heard also, Khenpo Rinpoche said before that this will be like a kind of teaching that is transmission. So he's giving you the reading transmission as he goes through the text. So what he'll do is he'll recite each section in Tibetan, and then I'll read the English translation of this. And then when he feels that, as we go through the text, when he feels that there's something that's important to clarify or to add some explanation to, then he'll stop and give some explanation as needed.
tene thongmar de da jer thong kor tene chan sarwa se nan chuba se tene zumba tham jawa se tene da pu nombi pecha mang che nang la tene jer thong kor da tene you varit thongmar tere.
So at the beginning, and this is actually very much the traditional structure of pretty much any Indian or Tibetan text that is written in the context of, a Buddhist scripture, is that first we have the homage. So there's the homage that is made, so prostration or homage, an offering, that's the first section, and then the second section is the commitment on the part of the one who is composing the text. So we have the homage and the commitment, and this is very traditional in almost every Tibetan text that you'll find.
보이 노르샤요.
Buyik nor duela.
근데 시비 바우시안 좀 쉬어서 히로 시비 중에서.
Alaso. So there's an error in the Tibetan, which,
Of course, that
yeah.
if you don't read that, you are lucky. But sometimes it's me to read painfully that so many mistakes. But that's what we have, and anyway.
It's just in the spelling, it's in the prefix. A prefix is missing, a silent prefix.
시비 중이 샤와 혁소 다 보기 룩술란데 당보 센트 트비갑소 시샤와 혁소서 당아서 인식이라 시라 줄금도 이나는 보기라 다 시샤와 혁소서 돼요.
So also in Tibetan, so it says like essentially herein is contained, something like that. In the Tibetan, the Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, or what is like here is what is referred to as Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, which we don't translate that last section in Tibetan of like here what is referred to or herein is contained, kind of. But that is usually part of every Tibetan title.
tene ta de jirthong tanda pechaki senla sen takdu taksol mombochi ndoga tande koron ngus kang yimbat tala tane ta shawa terwa dige de ene na ludop rangi ene tropo jarbo la tringwa indu odi 시비 중익사 이게 땅마다 올거서 또 인도 시에서나 촉색으로 촉라 아니 이게 땅마래스.
And so often, you know, with the title, the kind of contents of whatever the writing is contained, or the ideal is that it is there, it's contained within the title. And so here, like this is precisely what it is. So Nagarjuna, this is actually a letter that was written by Nagarjuna to his friend who was a king. So the king, so a letter to the king who was Nagarjuna's friend. And so that in the title is exactly what it says, is a friend, a letter, it is letter to a friend, literally.
Tening also the jambarsho churwala chansalo te also pechangu ki nola mever ina tene phuge lo chawage chor phug jagarkene sanskrit ne phokile jurdu tene lo chawe kin jurchaksen lo chawa namji chance batala de jambarsho churwala chansalo sa lo chawe ki cha zebares.
So also there is the tradition, when a text has been translated from Sanskrit into Tibetan, then also at the outset the translator states his homage. So here it says, homage to the gentle and glorious youth, Manjugosha, meaning Manjugosha. And so this is the Tibetan translator, or the translator who translated it from Sanskrit into Tibetan. This is their homage.
Teneda Sanskrit mus yoba tanda ndere tangbo ngacho jagarke to sufrida lekas puki to hibi chungyi jambarshono churwala chansalos tene ndene ma da zumba tamja wala sopa tenre lebuyoro teinenge ndene ma dangshana trisa ditola
So we have also above this, we have each, so it says in Sanskrit, Rileka, I don't know how to pronounce Sanskrit, and then in Tibetan, Shepe Chingyek, and then it says in our English version, an English letter to a friend. So of course the English is not in the Tibetan. You just have the two of the Sanskrit title and the Tibetan title. And then, so he'll then go into the contents of the text.
Yoten rangi gewu dagin dever hik be sungnian le chungwe zunam du le pakbi yang da da jungsi jek de chu ji san pare heder de hik ku zo heng li chung jeber jin rang rong den ke bin chu de xin dagin yang an de ngen yang tam chu ju le den le me me ji toba chen bu gan ne nyen ku hik chu ji to su da yang chu mu ji do ta le ji gong de wu ji ne Chekarnita Jidamejila.
This is the first page. La, okay. So it says, listen now to these few lines of noble song that I have composed for those with many virtues fit for good, to help them yearn for merit springing from the sacred words of he who's gone to bliss. The wise will always honor and bow down to Buddha statues, though they're made of wood. So too, although these lines of mine be poor, do not feel scorn, they teach the holy way. While you may have surely learned and understood the mighty Buddha's many, many lovely words, is it not so that something made of chalk, by moonlight lit, shines gleaming whiter still? 6 things there are.
I think that is.
Okay, yes, I think so. Wait.
Page by page is easy, maybe we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Tenin dana the king bat yung wan sa jinga so number sangji bi lu su la king bat yung wan sa ndwa tin du dana lu drop range kar sa ke yor na kongi yu yi tsik nyenga te yakbo chongmen do ma sons 대신 다 그냥 안 되게 양스 누가 and English so too, although these lines of mine be poor, which means nyanga. Think king ba chung wan sta lo pon lo drop da wi cha cha wa na ten re yo den sam ji me cha ba yo ba 상지 님바다 which 착여 루럽 사야돼 얘나 그 넘버 상지 비추시도 랑게 나자르데 메비 토네 나기 너와던 트루바 용시야 텐데 레스 얘나요 되는 얘기 담비 추주주 발라 땐네 아니 추론속인 알아 텐데 메바한테 제지어 말해서
So we always also likewise have in much of Dharma literature what is kind of referred to as a disclaimer, or it's actually literally some line that is the point of which is to counteract the author's pride, or to sort of a line that is a line of humility, sort of stating humility, kind of like a disclaimer of sorts. But it's, and here in this text it is, although these lines of mine be poor, so Nagarjuna, of course, is extraordinary in his qualities. He is really actually considered to be the second Buddha. And so it isn't to be taken literally like, oh yeah, this must not be very good or something like that. But it is actually this style of composition which is always kind of meant to humble, to sort of these lines of humility that often appear, which is kind of a disclaimer to the text. But it actually, in the case of Nagarjuna, obviously, his wisdom is unsurpassed. And so, Rewa?
Tene ta nga tso tsoma Bodhichari avatar sedutene da halam tsome hakoyan rojira. And chikina manche losem dichir yudin go ne karsung yore. Ngunchi ma yung pa yon dirju me debjun ke pa dala yuminde. Sonde shivala rangi ngar ma yung pa ji ngala shi yon ya kemes ngar song ma sarpachi. Debjun ke pa dala yuminde sonde ngala nyenga ke pa dang ngegi debjurte tende yakwames. Tende nang shi tandana jikwan rawrenda ngagi nyengante ningembarese.
Oh, and also I sort of forgot to mention that this is also in particular sort of stating his kind of, that his poetry is not, pleasing or not, although this is not great poetry. And so many of you, for instance, are familiar, and many of you have probably memorized, he said, definitely not myself, but the Bodhicharya Avatara, Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avatara, where also, he says something similar, which
37, not 37. Bodhicharya Avatara, the beginning, Shandideva says, Ngunchi ma yung payan dirjume. I don't have to say anything that, I don't have new things to say that already have said. Ngunchi ma yung payan dirjume. Debjurn ke payan dala yuminde. I don't have skill of poetry or compose. The other thing is interesting. Teacher xiandong samba dala me. Therefore, I don't have any motivation to benefit others. That's strange, yeah. I think he's saying, so my writing's so poor that's why maybe this is not beneficial to others. Rang ki yila kum cherngen di tsam. So due to this is familiarized in my mind, so that's why I'm composing.
Oh, it's for the sake of just like reminding myself of what's important, kind of, or familiarizing myself.
So those are, if you see in the beginning, oh, this is not good poetry, and that's not, but this is really, really profound text, short, and also if you don't have time, this condense all the practice through preliminary practice too, or Mahayana practice. So I just want to say these texts is very important. And then we can go next page, which is the body of texts starting here. Sanji chu tamkin Yarvi Sanji chu tamkin dun tong so trim saji tremba chu rab the kazar tada so yoden so ji tremberji. Give lelam chu po lu tan nga tang yi ji da tu ten chi jing chang nam le zo taking gewa ye chowa la yong omber ji brenzu. Long chu yowa ningbo min chen gan long cham ze ji tang yi nam la Jimba chor xin zarji paru de jinli xin bi nian xiu man chi so. Chu ji tsuchen ma nyam mu me ma, mandi ma ba ta tenpan zo, chem ne gyudan me ju sa xin tu yoden kun ji xi ten lakbar song. Jin tang tsuchen su zhong sam ten tang, te xi xerab xiarmi paru qin, dada jin zu si bi jam so yi paru qin ba jarwe ongban zo.
So in English, which is page 5. That's 6 things there are the Buddhas have explained, and all their virtues you must keep in mind. The Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, bounteous acts, and moral laws and gods, each one recall. With body, speech, and mind, always rely on wholesome deeds, the tenfold virtuous path. Avoiding liquor at all costs, thus find true joy to lead a life of virtuous deeds. Possessions are ephemeral and essenceless. Know this and give them generously to monks, to Brahmins, to the poor, and to your friends. Beyond there is no greater friend than gift. And keep your vows unbroken, undegraded, uncorrupted, and quite free of stain, just as the earth's the base for all that still or moves. On discipline, it's said, is founded all that's good. Generosity and discipline, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom, that knows thusness. Those measureless perfections make them grow and be a mighty conqueror who's crossed samsara's sea.
Tene dandana thongma ngasu Jesu chemba sayate. This inji tolo chorjuri yala kalendwa. Ayong chemba se tirthong simriti Sanskrit tola. Ngasu recollection. Chagyorwa. Tandika abse Jesu chemba sayate. And then juriala keep in mind St. George yosamare. Jesu chemba yong tene chango grace. Songotandi chemba ti inji meni and de beke memory tende chagosamare. Di chemba sayate. Da he told country during your tongue
To recall, to use it, recall, dilla? The recollection, So there's this word that is at the end of the first verse here on this page. It says, so we should recall, and this is a term that really, actually, he says, means more like keep in mind. So it's not like we're remembering, that we're trying to remember something from the past, but it's really actually more of taking to heart and always keeping in mind.
Tene da tende nongla ngazo namju changgoya te karisana sanji chu gendu ene ti tola tongwan sena jimba segoro tsutrem tene la yidam jis chemba da tende trokte namju ngazo jul tengo gores.
And so what is it that we have to always keep in mind? So we must always hold in mind the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Also, it goes on to say, the generosity, ethical discipline, the Yidam deity, all of these virtuous qualities must be always held in mind.
Tene da rede shinto malapiti ina da kapga ngaso pugi lusula kapga tene pecha ringbo ta ji chenbo ta sola tonong cher tang te da ge longren chiro longren sa ro longren chene na tonda chenbo yobe donji yobe so na wo tene tene tanda derwa ta so chidu tende chegor ina namju dig pecha nangni lungren pe mangbo chegndwa lakbar de tanda verse 7 gnol just as the earth's basis for all that is still or moves so de namju pe mesik lungren mangbo chegndo chem gyot meju sa hindo Yoden kunji shiten labar song sayate ane lungren mambo chik those.
Dumba, yeah. So in general, so each of these, each verse and going through, there are all of these very long texts that we have that different. In hearing them and reciting them and memorizing them, one really great benefit is that one becomes familiar with very famous and important quotes. So a lot of quotes are taken from these texts, and in particular, for instance, in this text, there are certain verses that are very frequently quoted. One of these, in Dharma teachings and so forth, one of these is the 7th verse here, which is, keep your vows unbroken, undegraded, uncorrupted, and quite free of stain. But specifically, just as the earth's the base for all that still or moves, on discipline, it said, is founded all that's good. So that those two lines are very famous and often referred to or quoted in other texts and other teachings.
Ludrupji Umatsawan Raw Dan Tendrik Ludrup Hyung Hienda, Tang Durnan de Tung Tung Ritaker. Young Dino, young Drandu, Gab Mitzo, this Shiragi and Kitchen of Mayin Bandro, Tendin Tongadua. Tendin Tongres, Pogan, as a lapture or thing, the Yin and Deep Ejandela.
So actually, so when you think about the vastness of Tibetan literature and how long many texts and important works are, and also many of those of Nagarjuna, like this is actually considered to be really quite short compared to other writings like, the root of Madhyamaka or Madhyamaka Avatara, and Umajupa Umatsawa. Yeah. The Madhyamaka Karika. And compared to that, for instance, this is very, very short. So sometimes there's an attitude like, oh, this is kind of unimportant, that there's many other texts that are much more important or profound. But it is not, shouldn't be kind of diminished or looked down on in that way, because it's really very fundamental and a very important text.
Tibetans, page 6. Quand la pa tang chu, quand la pa tang ma tang chu ji bi rek de chang ji lo pong ji ba tada lan chu chakpar chirwa tang le ma la yon thori top chola. Tse tong chung kun chek pa zun tang ne chang tang tu mi se la chak ba tang mar den to la ka la lo ta tang kar tang chung wi chi bar nam pang shik. Tra jum tsu chim ji su shi ba ye yen la je po tada tang den na zo jong do ju la yur yi wong ba ji pa fu me ta la zor par chi. Ser na yo ju cha tang nyum le tong ngom be nga jar do cha she tang tang rek to so to ba lang so tang on tong che wi ja ge tra shin sek. 파유 두치네데 파메 반치베네스 토비 가자데 토비 추지 게추벨레도 괴베다 화동 제번서.
So then on page 7, those who show their parents great respect with Brahma or a master will be linked. By venerating them, they'll win repute. In the future, they'll attain the higher realms. Eschew all harm, don't steal, make love, or lie. Abstain from drink, untimely greed for food, indulging in high beds and singing too. Refrain from dancing, all adornments shun. For men and women who keep this 8-branched vow and emulate the vows the Arhats took, their wish to nurture and to cleanse will grant them handsome bodies as celestial gods. Stinginess and cunning, greed and sloth, and arrogance, attachment, hate and pride, breeding good looks, learning, youth and power, such traits are seen as enemies of good. Carefulness is the way to deathlessness, while carelessness is death, the Buddha taught. And thus, so that your virtuous deeds may grow, be careful constantly and with respect.
The verse 7 canonla, just as the earth as the basis for all that still or moves on discipline, it is said is founded all that is good. Tene chuchim sayate jerton nagarjuna konrik tene galonji impichane konrik par damsa tesola yon tanda jarbola jerton jarbola tamga yorwa te yena yon chuchim sayate tene sachembo imba tetsigores.
So this is really what's embodied in these two famous lines that are in verse 7, where it says, just as the earth is the base for all that is still or moves, on discipline it is said, is founded all that's good. So in general, Nagarjuna is really emphasizing the importance of maintaining pure conduct, ethical discipline, as the foundation of all virtuous practice. And the king, he's encouraging the king to commit to this this basis of fundamental pure conduct.
Tene ta chuchim sayate la ngazo rimpa mangbo yorwa. Te indu di ki chuchim de tanda yanla ji senata yanla ji zojung ta chuchim te ta jarbo korang chapa marwa. Se ma indu tene de sungyo sara tanda verse 10, 11. So tandana yanla ji ponda da tang dena so yanla ji so jong yanla ji sendra se ton chugun chek ton zuen dan den chong ton tumi se le chagbat marden to la ga lo ta tan kardan chung wi chebar. So teso etene pangok res jarbola tam.
So gongdaga tataga par?
Oh,
I see. Okay.
Verse 10, right?
Verse 10, de sojung de
Yanlaji.
Yeah. So di zungo sungyore.
Micha Jerboti.
Yeah.
Micha Pomozra. Tindu. Sojung Yanlaji said Micha Pomok song togare, Sacha Yingo Mara. Not so Nyungni did Sojung Yanlaji, Langogno. The Micha Pomok chit sungers. In a little coron wrong, and then Galongi race. The Ton Sutrem said the Korong. Zachembo in Basungova.
So pure conduct or discipline has there are many different stages or different ways of maintaining or holding discipline according to like different levels of vows. Here, and of course, the king is not a monastic, but Nagarjuna is a fully ordained monk. But he's encouraging the king because there is the practice of the 8 vows that is kind of the foundation of the monastic ordination that can also be held by lay people. And so that's, for instance, what we do when we take the Sojong vows during, for instance, the practice of Nyungne. These 8 vows, which are contained, so what his instruction to the king is mainly contained here specifically in verse 10 and verse 11. So he's saying, not to reject all harm, to not steal, to not engage in sexual activity at all, to not lie, to not drink, to give up taking food at inappropriate times, to not sleep on high beds, to not engage in kind of entertainment of singing and dancing, and to not wear ornaments and perfumes and so forth. So he says, for men and women who keep this 8-branched vow and emulate the vows the Arhats took, their wish to nurture and to cleanse will grant them handsome bodies as celestial gods.
Tene tanda verse 13 juksum teyan pe mambo aso long dren chigndo pagyu dusine ta pame ban chiwe ne to ka zarde TV chuji kechu belly to kubi dot of hot and given song. Park you bat and park meba, park mates and a park you that thing you get cheaper jicone. Telling us a chupa kind of chat of we made pa you make it then younger reason. And as a junju canola then chen shi park use, chemba shi xin park use and mandava some dodge. Zongdo. Donna park you said the tola kind of jorina. Carefulness, Jordo. Then do not be a.
So here also in verse 13, this is also a very widely referenced quotation, so it's often quoted in other contexts, where it says, carefulness is the way to deathlessness, while carelessness is death, the Buddha taught. And thus, so that your virtuous deeds may grow, be careful constantly and with respect. So this term in Tibetan, which is bayo or ba mepa, which is the opposite. So sometimes maybe that's translated as heedfulness, to avoid heedlessness, to not be heedless. But here it's translated as carefulness. So it's to be careful and conscientious in all activities. So for instance, in the Bodhicharya Avatara, also it is emphasized, to always have mindful awareness and carefulness or heedfulness, to never separate from these two.
Tene, ta puyi inare, inji inare, logya te keche moro, logdu jik, mar logtang rogo te tra tabo, tang, tende logya te keche moro, re ten dungi, ta kantop tondene ma puyi logdu, tra tabo jine, logya res.
So when we're reciting something, reading something or reciting something, whether in Tibetan or in English, it's important to enunciate clearly, to chant or to read in a way that is clear. And so Khenpo Rinpoche says, he, as he reads the Tibetan, is making an effort to recite clearly.
Page 8. Kanshi ngonchi fangmi churbala chi ni padang denbar chor te yang dawa trindir shin to nam zede gawa sun ching tong den de yi shin. Ndedar sun chong gato man chi bi chu jin chowe ko kap ye me chi. Chowa bongwe cher me do ba ni tobr churwa sangji xiar ji shi. Da nen di ju ndi da pambar chi Ndeye dana noncho chordoshi, kondun zimbi, chunglong namji de, kondzin nampon devrin yilonjur. Semne chötang sadang dowa la, rimur chibantana rikbarchi. Tino nyongmu jian la tangbo ne, chodo chundu namlan tamala. Yarwe nying la babdan denbatong, lokbar maiden jiwa namji ni, zhangzi meto mesong dawu cik, Namsum Gazar Tilintamapang.
So on page 9 in the English, those who formerly were careless, but then took heed are beautiful and fair, as is the moon emerging from the clouds, like Nanda, Angulimala, Darshaka, Udayana. Hard to practice, patience knows no peer, so never allow yourself a moment's rage. Avoid all anger, and you will become a non-returner, so the Buddha said. He's abused me, struck, defeated me, and all my money, too, he has purloined. To harbor such resentment leads to strife. Give up your grudge, and sleep will easily come. Understand your thoughts to be like figures drawn on water, sandy soil, or carved in stone. Of these, for tainted thoughts, the first's the best, while when you long for Dharma, it's the last. 3 kinds of speech are used by humankind, and these the victor variously described. Like honey sweet, like flowers true, like filth and proper speech, the last of these eschew.
Tene dandana ngonchi pa me ba churwa tada churna yang chi se pa me le to de pa da dember churne perna andawa te jinji na ne char yo ma no yiten de cha ya yo re san do na semjen de sanji chi kompon to ya yo re so
So at first, when it's in the first line, where it is likening kind of obscurations or the taint of carelessness to be like clouds, and leaving that carelessness or heedlessness behind is like the parting or the disappearance of clouds that obscure the moon, and the moon emerging from the clouds. So here it's praising this activity of becoming careful and leaving behind your careless ways.
And here we see the examples that like Ananda, Agulimala, Darshaka, Uddiyana. So these people are first they did or wrong deeds, and later they overcome those, but we don't have much time here. And then you can see how to practice patient non as no appears. Then soba sayate, dorna tele sakbigi, then not so nyamlenji, mevare son ta sonji kichulola, soba ndavi kato me son. Hiedong David Digba me son do Hiedong David Digba Yomares Soban David got up Yomare Tanda Junjo Kinola Hiedong David Digba me Soban David got up me TV Soul and Nedenji now so sort of conversia son then Hiedong Tele Sagwit Digba Yomare Sobate Tinyembo Indu Telelabe then Yamla Yomare Tindu 탑 몸복 거네 소바도 공부 탑다 그래서 들송요.
So as it says at the first line here, hard to practice, patience knows no peer. So patience, there is no virtuous practice that is superior to that of patience. So as it says also in the Bodhicharya Avatara, there is no like greater hardship to endure. There's no greater perseverance than patience, and there is no negativity that is greater than anger. So you must strive to make effort in persevering or cultivating patience, like applying all sorts of methods. So with applying whatever method that is necessary, it is of utmost importance to practice patience, as the opposite of patience, anger, is the greatest or most dangerous of negativities.
Page 10. Nāne nāwin tarto mūmpane, mūmpien tarto nāne mūn tarto, mūne nāwin tarto kānzāne, hiede tadā nāmji tāngbonzo. Mēne amre, rēhi māmīla, mīmba tāngda mīla māmīnda, māmī, pārņo mīmba la, mīmbar nānghi jiewan rārtonzo. Hien ji chungma metan tong na yong, nācun tūmbar mātong fō mōtong, zingmung du shi ji cha churna, mēcong yi tu yang da sambarche. Yo wei semnen tōnsong, wadawar, der hin so tong rawar song che de, dukba tog tong song tong rawa tong, me hin dubi de la yin jungzo. 도바 남네 풍출지 바데 자르 옹부 김벤데 엔더서 대다 빵지 대기 짝쪽긴 크르베 총은 직단데 다지.
So on page 11 in the English, some there are who go from light to light, and some whose end from dark is darkness still, while some from light to dark or dark to light end up thus four of these be as the first. Men, like mangoes, can be sour and yet look ripe. Some, though ripe, look green, and others green, are sour indeed, while others still look ripe, and ripe they are from this know how to act. Do not gaze on others' wives, but if you do, regard them as your mother, child, or sibling. Depending on their age, should lust arise, think well, they are by nature unclean filth. Guard this fickle mind as you would do your learning, children, treasure, or your life. Renounce all sensual pleasure as if it were a viper, poison, weapon, foe, or fire. The pleasures we desire will bring us ruin. They're like the kimba fruit, the Buddha said. Eschew them, it's their chains that tightly bind, the worldly and samsara's prison house.
Tene tanda verse 21, do not gaze and so forth to others' wife, on others' wife. And the lopon ludrubiki korong getrobo jarbo la tamba indutin korong purva. Timaina tene ta mangchewa tanda nambigi pechatazo ke longtang chaba tene pug trishawa indu korong tsogin doba jesate tene pamicha de gore te indu tigla gore te ngaso tandik kamno yina tene ka jorne puina pomo ina pu te maina yo tene pu nyamdo denga pomo nyam denga da mo boyoro tene indu taject ni pecha nang lo song xiao nang xi nga zu ge sam no kor ko te yo samares.
So it should be said that, the reason why others' wives are mentioned here as, do not gaze on others' wives and so forth, or the female as the object of desire is because, first of all, Nagarjuna was a male, and he's teaching, this letter is to the king, who is a male. But of course, we can think of this from other perspectives too. So in their cases, the object of desire was the female. But there may be some who are not heterosexual, or heterosexual women where the desire is the male, or women where the desire is female, or the men where the desire is male. So you can think of it. One can think of it in those terms. It doesn't have to be just taken in this way, but of course, applying it to like the unique, like the one who is, whatever the objects of desire are for the one who is reading.
Page 12. Kanda ongbo chugyo namla na tato me ten yo dan kanda ji yungu chacho le je tata le ke nam tangbor parab lakbar tsar. Pime hyonu lu na lao shik tu chinga wada go gutu batang mitsong kunu dawar gang ka tang bakpi yo tang yen yo lao shise. Shidran zejen siwi nye bane dewi tendu me la kun denjang shivar minjo tatang dawane doba namla chakpan chemrzu. Todam sikbar chili ngu namla chorshi yi la cheba tegumzu. Tadan rawi yoden denba chushen gayan chiba malaso. Jivu rikzu tu tong den namtang shirab tsuchen charwa kor mala. Tedi kongla yoden teni den, teni yoden shendar charyan chu.
Of he whose fickle senses are controlled, these six that never cease to dart as things, and he who's fought and conquered many foes, the first is truly brave, the wise have said. Regard a young girl's body on its own, it smells so foul, its openings 9, a pot of filth insatiable and clothed with skin. Regard to her adornments on their own. A man with leprosy, consumed by germs, will stand before the fire for comfort's sake, but still find no relief, so know the same is true for those attached to the pleasures they desire. In order that you see the absolute, get used to truly understanding things. No other practice is there such as this, possessed of special virtues such as these. To those possessed of breeding, learning, handsome looks, who have no wisdom, neither discipline, you need not bow. But those who do have these two qualities, though lacking other virtues, you should revere.
Tenendana jigwara tanda pamegi lula kanrichi takuyome tinduga te indu da jarbochi tene mangchewa te tamsa te puri indu tene pamegi lute me tsangwara sen la tene nga zo junju ge nangla rang lula yang gomne tanda rang lu me tsangwe je sumchi soni yimba gomne rang lang lang nganzi tan jinzi Hiyak chetu komya tende yoran dona ranglu le kornanda shenlu le komnanda te tabu lubote metsangwa tang tende yimba ane komgores.
So again, here and actually I forgot to mention, he said before that in general, so many of these texts are written by men and written for the audience of men and monastics in particular, that the subject that is the female, but it's not inherently female. So it is the same, with male bodies, and in fact, in the Bodhicharya Avatara, one's own body. So there's then the reflection on the filthy, unclean nature of one's own body by, taking it apart and contemplating the 32 impure substances of the body as a way to counteract self-grasping, or a sense of, cherishing the body, a sense of self-importance. And so whether it's one's own body that is looked at in this way, or the bodies of others, this is a method for diminishing grasping and attachment.
And some defect of samsara and under kurviki jun sayade. Then Tandorna kurvandi nang la yuni songde tene John meba yo mares ta John ranglu bola John tanare henglu bola John tanare jerum kurva korange rotangla John tena tan kurva sayate donga ke rang yitang medeva tang tene changma mai padan durna tene dushi je ko warwa.
So this falls into, what we're reflecting upon at this time in the four thoughts that turn the mind, the defects of samsara. So the defects of samsara as a contemplating this as a means to generate a sense of turning away or revulsion towards samsara. The ways of samsara are the nature of suffering, and that everything that comprises samsara is the nature of suffering. And so this is another method for developing disgust or developing renunciation with respect to samsaric cyclic existence.
Page 14. Jikten chenpa nye tong Mani tong te tong me te nyen tang me nyen tong. To me chi ji jikten chu ji po dang ki ji yur me par kum go nyam zu. Chu ji tam ze ke jong la dang ne rong tong yam yam ta dang. Zu mo tong kor ji le tang yang dik pa me chi te nyerwa na me kar no nga man chi. Digbi le nam jeban gayana teyi molan song him me chujun chibi tula pamna digba ye lejin revo kongla imbarjur. Te dang tsu cham to tong tongwa tong chiming wa sa xie tang chiyu tang xeram nor dun lakbar tubi zong nor hien parwa tun tongman chi tong zu. Jembon ji tang ndu la tawa tang lelo digbi chola tenba tang chong tong tsemo jiwa ngan song do chakwa nyambar chirbi Drupon.
So then on page 15 in the English, you who know the world take gain and loss, or bliss and pain, or kind words and abuse, or praise and blame, these 8 mundane concerns, make them the same and don't disturb your mind. Perform no evil, even for the sake of Brahmins, bhikshus, gods, or honored guests, your father, mother, queen, or for your court. The ripened fruit in hell's for you alone. Although performing wrong and evil deeds does not at once, like swords, create a gash, when death arrives, those evil acts will show, their karmic fruit will clearly be revealed. Faith and ethics, learning, bounteousness, a flawless sense of shame and decency, and wisdom are the 7 riches the Buddha taught. No other common riches have no worth. Gambling, public, spectacles and shows, and indolence, bad company, strong drink, and nightly prowls, these 6 will lead to lower realms and damage your good name, so give them up.
Ne danga zo namju jikten chuji sen mambo shega sen ngone jikten chuji se ate yon karimi rimbakin hi shawa hiramendo de indi ki pecha kanala tandata jikten chuji se ate karimi en jikten chuji chi do chu drobaina sen taborum bu songwa nangshi chu sun rogo mare se aga tunda teres.
So we talk a lot about the 8 worldly concerns, but then when it comes to what are the 8 worldly concerns? Sometimes we don't even know, or there's a kind of lack of understanding what really are the 8 worldly concerns. So it's important to know, and here, they're enumerated, each one, in the text here. And this is very important in the context of Dharma practice, because if one's practice of Dharma is tainted by the 8 worldly concerns, then it is difficult for the Dharma to really be authentic Dharma, or for the Dharma to go in the direction of true Dharma, as Gampopa says, that the Dharma must go to the Dharma, it must become pure Dharma.
Tene, tanda verse 32 ginala kanda Ti tang, Tsu chen, Tu tang, Dongwang tang, Chiming Ngo Tsa Xi tang, Chiyu tang, Xer Nordun, Sida Pakwe Nordun, Sayada nga so ngoni Nor Senanda ta, nga so la Goba te, tan di dun tere so, ta Tongmar Namju nge Xibi Kapso, Teba Sayada, ane Kechenpo Xiojire, nga so Zongwa nga nyamlan chi nye jibor mare, tene namba sanji bikchu nyamlan chebar chebala, tongmar teba te kogoyo re, sonda teba te tebe ke nor sene, nga zo rintang chenpo yinba tang, rinpo che dago tele nor se yorwa nga zo.
And so then we have below with the 32nd verse, faith and ethics, learning, bounteousness, a flawless sense of shame and decency, and wisdom are the 7 riches the Buddha taught. So no other common riches have no worth. So these are the 7 noble jewels, or the 7 exalted riches or noble riches, or the 7 noble jewels. And so the first of these is faith, and faith being so important as, the foundation or as the starting point for all Buddhist practice. And so they're referred to as riches or jewels because they're so precious, they're so valuable.
Tene 당아서 도바가가 용 강사 주점년 가시다 뭐뭐 장거야 당 토거야 요 말에서도 tendi나다 디노라 토바서야데 노르직르 송도 대바서야다 토바서야 돼서 디게 노르노다 디게 노르든트 요바이나 tene chupa chubo chagores 디게 노르트 메바이나 tene chu방원에 차타고요 말와.
So likewise here, as we started off talking about the importance of hearing or study, so here it's learning is also mentioned as one of the 7 noble jewels or riches. And so if one has all of these jewels, then one is truly rich. But without them, there's no other wealth that is really significant. That this kind of wealth signifies true richness.
Page 16. Nor nam kunji nonan chok sheba ram chok lakbar sami tombe song. Kundu chok shin zojin chok chena norma dojun yongdan jirwala. Teba dongmo sheda dongarwan doba chok nap teda malate. Lun chok nam lang go shin iba telin jungwe dongar tenito. Rangi jandir hima dawu tong chimtam nyenji shomo dawu tong chungo angkumwa chungku dawu ye chungma zombo teyo nambar pang. Zingmo dawu jintu kanyi tong zamo shin to nyingla baba tong maa shin penbar do tong chenmo shin onjir kanyi regi sa shin kor. Kazi mendan rawa rikba den docha shedang mebar tenchi de jak cher mala, nyembe cher mala, tsak cher mala, lunen bashi cher.
So page 17 in the English, of all great wealth, contentment is supreme, said he who taught and guided gods and men. So always be content if you know this, yet have no wealth, true riches you'll have found. Kind sir, to own a lot brings so much misery. There's no such grief for those with few desires. The more the Naga lords possess of heads, the more their headaches, the more they have of cares. A murderess who sides with enemies, a queen who holds her husband in contempt, a thieving wife who steals the smallest thing. It's these 3 kinds of wife you must avoid. A wife who, like a sister, follows you, affectionate like a true and loving friend, supportive like a mother, obedient like a maid. She must be honored like a family god. Take food as medicine in the right amount, without attachment, without hatefulness. Don't eat for vanity, for pride or ego's sake. Eat only for your body's sustenance.
So, as I said, this you can reverse to...
Yeah, you husband, man servant,
Yeah.
maid servants.
Exactly. If your husband steals small things, that would be a little bit first sign, yeah? So they're concerned back then.
This was written in the 2nd century? Is it the 2nd or third century? Nagarjuna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2,000
So this is
years
very
ago.
old.
Yeah.
To put it into context.
And also here, this talks about sama. Sama said, "Danga so tanda lubol de tangchi to sama sagero." Di gaps lun ne ban ba shik cherts lun soya jik brok che donde sama saya de nga so lubo dang yak bo yong ya da hyuk chen bo yong ya da chen de ki che de mares lubo ne ya jik brok che lun ne ba shik che so ndo.
So this also importantly speaks of the role of sustenance or food, that the food is not, meant to, make ourselves strong and beautiful and attractive, but really just to take food as needed, as sustenance in moderation, with contentment, and not with kind of greediness and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we stop here if that's how we can go next week. Of course, you can read now. We have Tibetan and English. There's a few versions that you can read. It's not that difficult. It's a more straightforward teaching. And maybe we have sometimes people wondering Q&A sessions should be there. If we don't have that, then people are unsatisfied. So maybe we can discuss a little bit what people think. Yes.
So Beverly will give you the
trying
microphone.
To find
yeah.
Microphone.
I had a question on 32.
32.
Yes.
Okay.
So kind of a simple question maybe. Is this the inner meaning for during the mandala practice, this inner meaning of the 7 king's jewels? Is it?
No.
It's not that one.
These are different. These are different. 7 jewels are the mandala offerings are more wealth, because when we offer, we are offering everything. Yes? Usually, the 7
The 7 royal articles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's related to the kingdom sovereignty.
But they don't have the inner meaning. He's saying nangdong de yo marawa, nangdong rawa samna.
We could, but
not usually.
not usually. Yeah.
So also, I'll just say, so bounteousness actually is really in the Tibetan, it's more like generosity, right? Like tongwa. Tongwa is like generosity.
Yes, generosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good things are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should not betray our neighbors or something. It is
So it says, a sense, like a good sense of shame and decency, or ngotsa. It's kind of
What?
Chöyopa
Chöyopa.
is what's translated as decency here. Chöyopa, gayansana decency dela yang dunda indicate gandayopa sapo shiramandu.
Ngotsa shibasana rang la tuene ngotsa yopa. The hymn is based on self.
Yeah.
Chöyopa is based on other. So you should not betray. Betray is opposite of the betray is Chöyopa.
So there are these 2, shame and decency. So he's saying that, and I don't know, we could translate them in various ways, but that shame is more of a sense of on yourself, being to not behave in a way that is kind of shameful, even if you to yourself, even as but and then know it, and then decency. This word in Tibetan that is translated here as decency is more to have a sense of like embarrassment, if you were in front of others and you were to behave in a certain way, then you would be embarrassed or you would be ashamed. So to have a sense of decency in that regard, like in respect to others, and then also by your own standards, right? Is that kind of, yeah.
To tell you by is mostly, tell me by would act as a betray.
Betray.
Yeah. Tell you by means someone did something for you, so you would not betray that kindness act.
Oh, okay. So to honor others.
Yeah.
To not betray them, like if somebody does something kind to you, it's your duty to repay that kindness.
So that's why the tell you by is for other. And in the Tibet, there is a funny way of saying, maybe it's work in English or not.
So if somebody doesn't have any, the literal word is like a sense of embarrassment, you know, if somebody has no shame, you know.
Shoes. Will never
Fit?
No, never. In the Tibet, it's because shoes is very important, but they're made out of these organic materials. Usually, shoes are broken very fast in the mountainous. But if your toes are come out from shoes, it's kind of shameful too.
Oh, it's
it's not like sandal, but
it's like
and if person has
the
no
toe of your shoe is broken, it's like your toes emerging from your shoes.
But if person has no shame, that they still wear these shoes, and these shoes never worn out. It means these shoes are already broken, but they still wear. So that's why in Zentame is there's no end of not wearing these broken shoes if you have person has no shame.
A person who has no shoes is like never giving up your old worn out shoes that your toes are emerging from.
Yeah. If you go to a wedding ceremony and your toes are come out, that's not, you are not betraying, but it's embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Lama, I read this text a few days ago, and I have to be very honest, you know, when they refer to women, and I understand, you know, it could be the opposite sex, but when he refers to the human body or the female body as filth, it kind of struck to me, you know, and the whole perception of sensual relations, the concept or the perspective sounds way too Catholic, you know, to be honest. I mean, I come from a Catholic education, to shame, you know, sex and that. And I understand, you say it's from the 2nd century, but it just concerns me. How do we transform that vision to something that is more accurate to our time and still make it meaningful, respectful? Because my understanding of the precept is to not harm others with your body in any way.
But that is a lay precept. I'm just going to say the way we're learning it here, this is celibacy.
Oh, it's for monastics.
Yeah, so it's not about not just harming with sexual activity.
Oh,
it's not monastic. It's for a lay practitioner who is taking up a vow of celibacy.
Oh, that part I didn't know.
In this one, that's what this is. Yeah.
Vow celibacy. Okay.
But that's not, so the way that Drupon taught the 10, so when we talk about the 10 virtues and the 10 non-virtues, that's from a more like layperson who is engaged in sexual activity, then the vow is to not harm others with your sexuality, right? So it's a different vow, but it's in the same category.
Okay, now I understand better.
Right, Kimball?
Yes, and to try to how to avoid if you have strong desires is that how to prevent or how to disengage with any person. The one method is talking about mitsangwatawa.
So it's a method to diminish desire, to see from the perspective of the unclean, to see the unclean, the filthiness of the human body.
But this is a sutric viewpoint, sutra viewpoint. If it comes to Tantra, then it's another totally different level.
The body is the deity.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting confused.
So that's why sometimes tantric teachings are treated as more sort of advanced teachings. Look around.
Is there a way of, in this text, or perhaps others, not this text, in which the concept of guilt arises? One sees shame, one sees ideas of decency, betrayal of vows or promises. One sees a lot of things, but I know in some anthropological, sociological, psychological discussion, much is made of the sense that guilt might be more Western in some ways, that we internalize and go around and suffer in this way in the West, more so than in Asia generally. And I was wondering about Tibetan history of thought and psychology on that.
Yeah, very much. When we talk about 4 powers of the purification of the karma, very first we need to think about ngu shi dikpa kont tok song tar song ngun chi chi sha we dikpa te kok we nong la tok song an shi tin jo pa che kre song do jo pa chen bo me wa yana tene nga zo dikpa yang du do ba te che ma ro dikpa se du bo re ta ti gi nga zo la no ba chen bo che song me che wa tel tene tene tan drek ma song sa me tin jo pa de chen bo yu ko re.
So the closest thing to guilt that comes up maybe in the context of Buddhist practice, and of course, the subtle nuances of the word guilt in the English language, I'm not sure. We usually say remorse is in the context of the 4 powers. So it is said that there should be such a feeling of remorse for our negative actions that it's like we've eaten poison, like there's poison in our stomach, from a feeling of such a sense of remorse for our wrongdoing. And it is said that if that depth of remorse is not there, then it won't necessarily prevent us from repeating the negative action. So the remorse really helps in setting, the stage for the resolve, that when we have very deep and heartfelt remorse, then we will resolve not to do the same wrongdoing again. Thinking this was really not okay, right?
Then shakpas confession ti nong la kar shak wen nong kan ri shak re sena mo cha tan ju sem ji ko ni ya re song do mo rong la mo cha yo ba and
it is said that when we engage in confession, that there is, the confession is made with a deep sense of remorse and some shame, some feeling of feeling embarrassed, for what we've done, or for what was wrong.
There's a question online. James, can you unmute?
Well, I didn't want to take up time since we're at the end, but Kempo, is it okay if I share a comment?
Mouth.
We can't hear you very well, James, because, there.
Let me see. Let me see if I change my mic.
That's better.
That's better. Okay. Um, I just wanted to share for a moment that I think it would be an unfortunate mistake to view the text as outdated and summarily throw something out. Just in the sense of until you actually do the practice, for example, contemplating on the undesirability of the human body, you don't really know its value as a practice, right? Just like when we contemplate on emptiness, it's not like the world disappears and we fall through space, but it's a practice to diminish our attachment. I can share that this practice has value. It shouldn't just be regarded as antiquated and discarded.
Yeah, thank you, James. I didn't mean to, I know I pointed out that it was written a long time ago. I mean, it was just to put it in context. It's more with the kind of more the feeling of maybe some of the sexist statements, or something like
Right.
that, but absolutely very valuable. The Dharma is timeless.
I wasn't responding to your comment, by the way, just the earlier think about how does it fit with Yidam practice, etc., because we can still be Yidam practitioners, but experience a great deal of unnecessary attachment to things. And this
Right.
practice has value. That's all I'm wanting to say.
Yes, thank you.
One more, then we stop, and from here next week we continue. Yes, Steve.
I think so often in the discussion of ethical precepts, we don't always bring to mind the stage of the state of mind. In other words, does the state of mind occur right after the act is committed? Is it years later? Is it, hours later? In terms of guilt and remorse, I think in English, remorse has a connotation of possible improvement. In other words, as you're saying, through remorse, we gain self-understanding and we overcome some of the negativity. Whereas with the concept of guilt in English, it's almost like, well, you're guilty. The guilt remains.
Well, one person
so,
pointed out said that the English word guilt, that the difference between shame and guilt, they said, and I don't know if this is true, but that it takes it a step further, I feel bad about this thing. It's not I feel bad that I did this thing and I really repent it. It's like I am bad because I did this thing. I am bad. And so I think that in the Tibetan way of looking at things, because there's a natural understanding that faults are like clouds that can be removed, that you are not inherently bad for your faults, that there's not the same type of guilt that we have in Judeo-Christian kind of upbringings. That's my opinion, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my English, I don't know, but it seems if you need to pay a debt or something, or to a friend, or if you pay back that part, then guilt would be lifted. Yeah.
Guilt would be lifted from paying back your debts.
Yeah. Similarly, people would say, I have a guilt that I didn't do something in the past. But then I think if you correct that situation, then your guilt would be lifted, I think. Maybe is that truth or guilt? So kind
So
of,
that's maybe the difference that you're pointing out, is that there might be, in a kind of culturally speaking, there might be more of a habit to, even after you've repaired the wrongdoing, still holding on to a guilt about it or something, is what it sounds like you guys are getting at. But yeah.
yeah, Nagarjuna's talks about it's like the moon shine forth through this cloud, and clouds just burst. And so this, seems there's once you come to this state, then there's no guilt in this state. Yeah. Okay, we are still Sunday, and of course people don't have much time, so we stop here. Short dedication, and then we will resume.
So we'll continue
Look
next
like a
week,
dot.
from where we left off next
Dot
next
and
Sunday.
Kunde Tamji is that.
Okay. So on page 24 of the prayer book, bottom of the page, the last line, or the second to last line. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Okay.
Thank you, Kumbha.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next Sunday. Please join us.